Hey, this is Ryan from 60 Cycle Hum, the Guitar Podcast, and today I'm showing you the Thermae analog delay / pitch shifter by Chase Bliss Audio. And if you're familiar with Chase Bliss Audio pedals, you already know that this thing is a treasure trove of options. It's just deep with little switches and knobs and all sorts of stuff you can do with it. There's a lot of ground to cover, so let's get straight into it and not waste any more time. I'm using my Squier Contemporary Telecaster loaded with humbuckers. I'm going to be favoring the bridge pickup, I think. So anyways, here is the dry signal. And here is the standard delay sound of the Thermae. No funky, weird modulations or anything. This is just the bass delay, which is honestly a really powerful and great sounding delay all by itself. Fantastic. Of course, there's tap tempo. You can tap really fast or tap out a full second if you want to. Subdivisions over here. You know how those work. There is a mix control. Let's get a little bit faster here. It can go all the way wet if you want. Some people like that. And of course you can turn it down. But who wants to do that? I like it right around there. There is a tone control labeled the LPF knob, which means low pass filter, obviously. You turn it all the way to the right and it gets pretty bright. You turn it all the way to the left and it gets murkier and murkier until it completely filters out the signal and turns it off. So let's check out the range of the LPF right now. The LPF knob is pretty responsive to the repeats knob, so you got to be careful. It can get out of control if you're randomly racking stuff around. But here you can hear that the signal gets pretty dark with it turned far to the left. And there it's off. And of course, there's a repeats control. Pretty normal range on that thing. Of course, self-oscillation for days with this pedal. You can access those through the hold control too. You hold down the tap tempo button and it'll go into momentary self-oscillation. Racking the subdivision switch is fun to do while that's happening. So there's also a modulation, like a classic analog delay modulation section to this pedal. You have to access it by flicking one of the dip switches in the back. When you do that, it turns these two knobs and these two dip switches into your modulation control. You can get as subtle and as wacky as your heart desires with that. Shape options with the right dip switch. A nice fun square wave. Do a sine wave. And you can assign an extra shape. It's like a wave inside the wave. It gives you some extra texture to that modulation. Nice and fluttery, and there's an even more extreme setting right there. Let's slow it down so we can hear it a little better. Fun stuff. I'm going to turn the modulation off for the rest of this demo just so I can show off the other settings without this, murking everything up. So now we'll get into the pitch shifting options of this pedal. So first of all, there's two different knobs here that control basically pitch divisions of a step filter, like a step modulation that's on the wet signal of the delay. You control the range of it with one knob, and then there's a second range with the second knob. It has settings like a fourth, a fifth, an octave plus a fifth, and 2 octaves, either going lower or higher. So there's a lot of range there to mess around with. And basically you set the step filter, the first step filter, and then the second step filter effects on top of that. So if you're in a place with the first step filter where you're an octave higher, and then all of a sudden the second step filter comes in and overlaps that and gives it another octave, then all of a sudden you're 2 octaves higher. You can stack fifths like that. You stack 2 fifths and you end up on a 10th. Is that how math works? I don't know. But anyways, things can get really wacky really quick. Let's check it out. I'm going to start with the first knob and then go from there. So this is the plus octave setting. The glide knob controls the shape of the wave of the pitch modulation. So right now it's turned all the way left, which means it's just a square wave. You turn it to the right and it starts to glide into those settings. Can get pretty wacky pretty dang quick. Especially when you introduce the second pitch modulation. We'll go the other direction on that. Let's go all the way extreme. You can also control where in the time of the delay those pitch modulations sit with an individual subdivision switch for each of those pitch modulations. So you can set your subdivision for the actual delay and a subdivision for each pitch modulation, allowing you to explore just a crazy amount of patterns and like invent different tweaky little sounds and stuff. You could sit down on the floor with this pedal for like a year and find new sounds every minute of the day. Let's get into some of the dip switch settings. There's a lot of fun stuff to do with this pedal. Oh man, here we go. So this is one of my favorite things to do, is I've engaged the step switch, which means that when you tap this button, it goes back and forth between these two different settings. So you could set one to be pretty wacky and the other one to be off in the center position. Oh man, it gets crazy fast. Right, now I have the bounce control assigned to the low pass filter knob, which racks it back and forth. I have it set up so that it's like a whole other modulation for an otherwise super modulated analog delay. When the bounce control is turned on, then you lose the mix function of this knob. Just turn off the bounce to re-access it. But this turns into the speed knob for the bounce control. To get really weird, we can assign the bounce function to either or both of the pitch modulation controls. Let's do one of those now to see how funky it gets. So in that setting, it's racking between these hard settings on the pitch modulation, going all the way from 2 octaves below up through octave plus a fifth, to an octave, to a fifth, to a fourth, and all the way around to the other side. And you can have 2 of those running on different tap tempos, on different subdivisions at the same time. This thing will get bananas in a hurry. Let's just turn those both on and see what happens. That's weird. That's about as weird as it gets. Oh man. So I've turned everything off and I'm going to get into one more setting that I like to do before, I jam out and play out with some sort of song. I like to turn the glide all the way up and put the pitch to either side. And because it has so far to travel along the glide, if you do a pretty fast tap tempo, you get a bit of like a fun chorus sound. It just sounds beautiful, and it's such a simple thing to dial in. No dip switches involved. You save it as a preset if you want. You can save all these things as 2 different presets. Look up at the information on how to do that. I don't want to spend so much more time on this thing. There's a lot more to cover. Also, if you hold down both dip switches, foot switches, for 3 seconds, you go into an extra slow mode for the pitch modulation. Check this out. It decreases the speed of the pitch modulation by half. We'll just do fifths. Let's do double sub-octaves. Double sub-octaves. Oh, man. There's a lot of weird sounds that live in this pedal. I'm sure I didn't even scratch the surface, honestly. I didn't even plug in the expression pedal. Man, watch all the other videos that everyone else does. Watch future videos that I do. Please like, subscribe, dislike, leave me rude and nasty comments if you feel like it. Click the links down below and enjoy this noodly little jam. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm sure it'll get weird. Later, guys.